Okay, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Sarita Cardozo and I'll be your moderator today. I'm a volunteer with AARP California. I also serve as a fraud fighter with the AARP California Fraud Watch Network. We are so glad you could join us today. Before we jump in, we ask everyone to observe the following meeting agreements so everyone can have a good experience. Please keep yourself on mute. Let's not have distracting background noises. Use the chat to raise questions, add comments. Assume everyone's good intentions using respectful language and tone. And please note, if your camera is on, we can see what's happening in your background. This meeting is being recorded, so those who can't be with us today can still view the program at a later time on our AARP YouTube channel. Please click OK when it appears on your screen. Now, if you're not familiar, the AARP Fraud Watch Network is a free fraud prevention and education resource available to anyone. Our network is all about helping communities avoid fraud and scams through information, education, resources, and events. So thank you for joining us today for our fourth and final conversation in our weekly interactive fraud prevention and education conversations that we have been co-hosting throughout August with our friends at the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. I hope you will help us make this an interactive conversation by sharing your comments, your experiences, your thoughts, and by asking your questions. As always, we have set aside time at the end of today's presentation to answer your questions. Please put any questions in the chat. Today, we're going to be talking about social media scams and how to stay protected from them. But before I introduce our guest for today's conversation from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation and the Federal Trade Commission, let me first share a few housekeeping items. For audio purposes, please keep yourself on mute until you are invited to unmute yourself. To ask a question, please write your question in our chat, and during our Q&A session, I will invite you to unmute yourself and come on live to ask your question. If you're not comfortable coming on camera to ask your questions, no problem, we can do it for you. And lastly, today we will hear from speakers from the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation and the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. Please note that the opinions expressed in the presentations by our speakers and on their slides are solely those of the presenters and do not necessarily represent the views of the agencies. The information is solely for educational purposes only. So now, before I turn to our guests, let me share with you this. Older adults are increasingly active on social media, especially Facebook, which is used by nearly 3/4 of US adults between the ages of 50 to 64, and half of those aged 65 and over. According to a 2021 survey data from the Pew Research Center, these were the statistics that I just read out, and that's why we have to be extra careful where and what we click. Fraud is prevalent on popular social networks like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X as it's now called, and it's getting more popular every day. The Federal Trade Commission received more than 95,000 complaints in 2021 about scams that originated with social media ads, posts, or messages. This is a six-fold increase since 2019. These incidents cost consumers some $770 million, accounting for a quarter of fraud losses reported to the FTC in 2021, and making social media the most profitable way for scammers to reach us. So let's meet our first guest to help us understand more about these issues. I'd like to welcome back Sally Westlake with the Department of Financial protection, and innovation. Hello and welcome, Sally. Now, if you're joining
Thank
us for
you.
the first, you're joining us for the first time, Sally is an outreach specialist for the DFPI. She provides presentations throughout the state on recognizing the warning signs of financial frauds and scams, and she also provides tools to help prevent people falling victim to fraud. Sally is responsible for coordinating outreach programs, developing partnerships with community based organizations, and educating the most vulnerable in our communities. Her focus is on promoting financial literacy and awareness of financial risks in the marketplace. Welcome. Great to have you back, Sally. So,
Thank
Sally,
you,
let's
Rita.
so Sally, let's get some questions to help us understand social media scams. How your agency can help us keep us protected. Could you tell
Of
us
course.
more about the DFPI?
Of course, Sarita. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and thank you for the introduction. Again, I'm so excited to be here for our last Scam Chat Wednesdays of 2024. And thank you all for joining us today on this call. To tell you more about the DFPI, we provide protection to consumers and services to businesses engaged in financial transactions. We regulate variety of financial services, products, and professionals. The department also oversees the operations of state licensed financial institutions, including banks, credit unions, money transmitters, issuers of payment instruments, and premium finance companies. The department also licenses and regulates a variety of financial businesses, including securities brokers and dealers, investment advisors, payday loans, and certain fiduciaries and lenders. The department regulates the offer and sale of securities, franchises, and off exchange commodities. The complete list is available on our website at dfpi.ca.gov. And we serve the state by enforcing the state's financial service laws and providing resources to Californians to help Californians make informed financial decisions. As part of our mission, we strive to help consumers protect their personal finances from fraud. And on our website, you can also submit a complaint, verify service providers, search enforcement records, and find resources regarding fraud and investing. You can always also call us at 866 275 2677 if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sally. Could you tell us a little bit what is social media?
Of course. So the term social media is generally used to describe internet-based websites and applications where users can participate in conversations, connect with other people, share their thoughts, and otherwise engage in social networking in a virtual environment. For mainstream players like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, to specialized platforms like Pinterest, TikTok, and Reddit, users now have a plethora of options to choose from. There's reports that indicate that as of April 2024, there were over 5 billion social media users worldwide, which is 62% of the global population. Now, pinpointing the exact number of social media platforms is a challenge due to the constant emergence of new players and the dynamic nature of the digital landscape. The popular ones mentioned are just the tip of the iceberg. And social media platforms have become now an integral part of our culture. Many people spend at least some portion of their day on social media, consuming news, forming opinions, and sharing highly curated snippets from their lives with friends and strangers alike. Now, despite these benefits, social media also has risks. It has become a tool used by scam artists to take advantage of people. As the number of social media scams increases, you should know what to look out for. Now, be selective with your social media presence.
Thank you for that information. Didn't realize how many people are involved in that. Could you describe a little bit what is a social media scam? We hear about this all the time.
Sure. So social media scams are a type of fraud that's committed on social networking sites. Scammers often create fake profiles, befriend innocent people, and send spam messages or links that lead to malicious websites. There's the FTC reports 1 in 4 people who reported losing money to fraud since 2021 said it started on social media. Social media gives scammers an edge in several ways. They can easily manufacture a fake persona or hack into your profile, pretend to be you, and con your friends. They can learn to tailor their approach from what you share on social media. And scammers who place ads can even use tools available to advertisers to methodically target you based on your personal details, such as your age, interest, or past purchases. Now, all of this costs them, these scammers, next to nothing to reach billions of people from anywhere in the world. So stop and think. It could be a scam if the post or message shows or suggests that a celebrity or public figure recommends or promotes a product or service. Social media scams use common tactics like offering to buy something you're selling for a high price without seeing it first, offering items for much lower prices than usual or compared to other sites. Make sure that the person is who they say they are. Research profiles to check how long an account has been active, how many friends or followers they have, and how much activity they've had online, including posts and photos. Lack of history, detail, and followers can be a sign of a fake profile.
Amazing. Sally, do you have examples of social media scams?
Sure. One common social media scam is phishing scams. Phishing scams don't only exist in email. In fact, they found their way to social media. So, social media phishing is when scammers send their victims messages pretending to be from a legitimate source, whether a friend or a reputable company. The messages often portray a sense of urgency, causing the victim to panic into clicking a link. The link then leads to a fake login page, and once you input your credentials, the scammer will be able to steal it and gain access to your accounts. Whenever you receive a direct message on social media, always verify the sender's identity. Never click on suspicious links provided by a suspicious person. Instead of creating a fake profiles, scammers may also take over an existing one. This can happen when the scammer steals a username and password through a data breach, phishing, or malware. Scammers use the hacked profile to contact a person's friends and family and ask for money or to promote a link to a fraudulent site they own. So, how can you protect yourself? If someone you know is asking for money via instant messaging or social media, be very cautious. Another common social media scam is impersonation or dating and romance scams. So, one study showed that half the people who said they lost money to an online romance scam said it began on Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat. These scams often start with a seemingly innocent friend request from a stranger, followed by quickly professing love and the inevitable request for money. What I'd like to do is share a story with you about Mary and her Facebook friend. So, Mary's children signed her up to Facebook and gave her some basic lessons on how to use it. They told her everyone was using it and that it would help them keep in touch and see photos of her grandchildren. So one day, Mary received a friend request from a serviceman on peacekeeping duties in Afghanistan. She decided to accept the request and then allowed Steve to be her Facebook friend. It didn't start as a romance, but he said he was lonely and looking for friends to keep him company while he was stuck on duty in the middle of nowhere. Soon after befriending her, Steve told Mary he had lost his wife to cancer, and his story of looking after her was similar to her own experience when her husband had died of cancer. He then said he was being posted to Nigeria, but his time in the US military was nearly finished. He sent her pictures. He kept saying he couldn't wait for them to be together. They became very close, and he emailed her every day saying it was easier for him than using Facebook. Steve told Mary he liked gemstones and wanted to set up a jewelry store when he retired. He said this was the best part of being in Nigeria because it was close to where the precious stones were being mined and he could buy them very cheaply. He told Mary he was coming to see her, but had some trouble with his bank card not working in Nigeria and couldn't get funds to pay for an export tax on his gemstones. Mary transferred some money to him to cover the tax, which Steve explained was only 2% of the value of the gemstones, but still amounted to $15,000. It was a lot of money to send, but she figured he was a good and honest serviceman, and if things worked out, they would spend the rest of their lives together. All was going well until his next stopover in Malaysia. Customs officials seized the gemstones and demanded payment to have them released. This time they were asking for $20,000. Mary told him it would take some time to get the money and because she had to borrow against the family home. Mary sent the money to Malaysian officials, but was told Steve was now in jail for smuggling and that she needed to contact his lawyer. The lawyer then said he needed to get an anti-terrorism and money laundering certificate, and this would be another $10,000. Jim, the lawyer, said he also needed to pay for his court costs plus his own fees, and this would be another $5,000. Mary sent the money, but then Steve said there was another government official demanding payment to extend his visa while he waited for the court to process all the documents. Almost every day, Mary then was contacted with a new demand for money. They sent her certificates signed by officials, forms to fill out, and bills for everything. By this point, Mary didn't know exactly how much money she had sent, but it was well over $100,000. She didn't care about the money. She just wanted to help Steve, and she honestly thought he would pay her back. Even when Mary ran out of money, the demands didn't stop. Unsure of what to do, Mary finally talked to the police. They explained that her experience included common features of a dating and romance scam, and it would be very unlikely she would get her money back. Mary can't help feeling in her heart that she let Steve down, but she knows in her head it was all a scam. Does this sound familiar? Now, this was just a story, but based on cases I've either heard or read about. So please be careful who you befriend on social media.
Thank you, Sally. That's quite distressing how people get tricked into sending money. But what about investing using social media and finfluencers? I have to admit, I hadn't heard of finfluencers until recently.
Yes. So social media has made learning about financial topics more engaging and accessible for new retail and non-professional investors through short, entertaining videos that use creative ways, such as memes and metaphors to explain financial concepts. Now, while this trend has brought increased access to financial literacy and advice to many people, the quality can be inconsistent, surface level, and susceptible to fraud and misinformation. So, what is a finfluencer? A finfluencer is a person who, by virtue of their popularity or cultural status, can influence the financial decision making process of others through promotions or recommendations on social media. They may influence potential buyers by publishing posts or videos to their social media accounts, often stylized to be entertaining, so that the post or video will be shared with other potential buyers. While there is nothing new about marketers paying for celebrity endorsements, what is different is that such breezy and hyper emotional endorsements are being made in what is otherwise very regulated industry with stringent rules about performance claims and disclosure of potential conflicts of interest. For example, Kim Kardashian agreed to pay $1.26 million settlement to the SEC for promoting crypto security EMAX on their Instagram account without disclosing she was paid $250,000 to do so. Now, this case is a reminder that when celebrities or influencers endorse investment opportunities, it doesn't mean those investment products are right for all investors or that they are even legitimate. So while celebrities and other well-known personalities may be very talented in their respective professions, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a trusted source for investment advice. Before emotionally and financially investing in social media personalities, watch out for these red flags like dubious advice or reckless advice, like quoting, avoid paying your debts or avoid making your next mortgage payment by using this hack. Free offers. Free is never free. Before investing, look for hidden fees and ask for payment commitments in writing. Booklets or training courses, beware of purchasing repurposed or outdated investment strategies that offer lofty promises. Also, a sense of urgency. Some influencers use scare tactics or pressure to manipulate you into investing or paying upfront for a service that hasn't been performed. How about FOMO or fear of missing out? Don't buy into the hype. And peer pressure, whether where you feel like you belong to their online community, unless you know them personally, influencers are not your friends and your money is your money. So we urge consumers to exercise extreme caution before responding to any solicitation offering financial services or investments. The DFPI licenses investment advisors. We do not license influencers or the crypto asset products and services they often promote. These products and services are currently not insured or regulated and are considered very high risk. If you lose your investment or get locked out of your account, there may be no options available to recover your losses. To check a influencer's license status or if any actions may have been taken against them, visit our Check Out Your Investment Advisor webpage.
Thank you, Sally. So what resources does the DFPI have about investing? Is there a webpage that people can go to?
Yes, so there is, I think she's going to share it on in the chat, but you can contact us by calling us at 866-275-2677 with any questions about investments, cryptocurrency, or filing a complaint. And again, visit us at our website at dfpi.ca.gov for more information. We have a consumer page as well as a link to our new investor page as well. You can email us if you'd like a presentation. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter, and you can stay connected with what we do and how you can further protect yourself from fraud. So remember, you can follow us on social media like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, to stay in the know. Thanks, Sarita.
Thank you. All right. So I know you gave us several tips, but do you have some more specific tips that you can share with us to protect ourselves from social media scams?
Sure. You can, let's see, some things that you can do. Do set your profile to private and restrict your social media contacts to people you know personally. Do be on the lookout for suspicious posts, including limited time offers, discounts that seem too good to be true, and requests for personal or account information. Do be wary of individuals you meet through social media sites, especially if they promise romance before you've met in person. Do create a unique password and username for each app and website you use to help protect against unauthorized access across multiple accounts. Don't accept friend requests from strangers. Don't respond to online solicitations for easy money, and be wary of requests when they ask you to send money back. Don't click on suspicious links, even in posts from people you know. Their account may be hacked. Don't fill out every field on your social media profile, such as your phone number and home address. Including these details increases the chance of identity theft should your account be hacked. Don't send money to someone you met only online. If you receive a request from a friend or family member for money, always contact them using a different method to make sure their profile was not hacked.
Thank you. Those are great tips. So Sally, can you share with us again how we can contact the DFPI?
Sure. Yes, perfect. We have the slide up. You can call us at our toll-free number with any questions about investments, cryptocurrency, or filing a complaint. Please visit our website. We have a wealth of information for consumers. You can also email us if you'd like for us to participate at your event or would like for us to be a speaker. Again, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter to stay connected about what we do and again, how you can further protect yourself from fraud. And of course, our social media links are there so that you can stay in the know. Thanks, Sarita.
All right, thank you, Sally, for all those tips and answers to our questions. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our second special guest to help us understand and avoid social media scams. Attorney Jeffrey Tang with the Federal Trade Commission, Western Region, Los Angeles. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Happy to be here.
So Jeffrey is an attorney with the Federal Trade Commission's Western Region, Los Angeles office. In that office, he serves the residents of Southern California, Southern Nevada, Arizona, Hawaii, Guam, American Samoa, and Northern Mariana Islands. That's quite a spread over there. As a Western Region Los Angeles attorney, Jeffrey helps to stop unfair, deceptive, and fraudulent business practices by conducting investigations, bringing law enforcement actions, and educating consumers and businesses about their rights and responsibilities. It's wonderful to have you with us today, Jeffrey, and we look forward to learning from you. Before we go to our audience questions, I'd like to ask you a few questions to learn a little more about your agency and what it is seeing and doing about this issue. And audience, please remember to put any questions for Jeffrey or Sally in the chat during the program, and we will get to them during the Q&A portion. So Jeffrey, what is the FTC? What do they do?
To start, I just want to thank the AARP and California DFPI for hosting this wonderful event. I'm happy to be here. I also just want to give the FTC's kind of standard disclaimer. I want to say that the views expressed here today are my own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the commission or any individual commissioner. So the FTC is an independent agency of the United States government. Our mission is to protect the public from deceptive or unfair business practices and from unfair methods of competition. We cover virtually every area of commerce, with the exceptions being banks, insurance companies, transportation and air carriers, and some other entities which are handled and regulated by other agencies. We forward our mission by pursuing strong and effective law enforcement against deceptive, unfair, and anti-competitive business practices. We create and share educational programs for consumers and businesses. We advance consumers' interests by sharing our expertise with federal and state partners and U.S. and international government agencies. And we help develop policy and research tools through workshops, conferences, and hearings.
Thank you. And how does the FTC enforce federal consumer protection laws that prevent fraud, deception, and unfair business practices?
So the main statute enforced by the FTC is Section 5 of the FTC Act, which empowers the agency to investigate unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce. The way to think about deceptive is practices that are likely to mislead a consumer acting reasonably. And the way to think about unfairness is practices that cause or are likely to cause substantial injury to consumers who could not reasonably avoid them and are not outweighed by countervailing benefits. And in addition to Section 5, the FTC enforces a variety of other consumer protection statutes that prohibit specifically defined practices, such as the Telemarketing Sales Rule, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act. And so kind of as part of all this, the FTC conducts non-public pre-complaint investigations into businesses for problematic practices. And then following our investigation, the FTC may initiate an enforcement action if it has reason to believe that a law is being or has been violated. And these investigations usually start from consumer complaints. That's how we find out about these problematic practices. So I do want to stress the importance that we do appreciate consumers that share their real life experiences with these companies and the problems, and it helps us with our investigation.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Can you share some examples of social media scams?
One of the more prevalent types of social media scams are sweepstakes or lottery scams. Basically, a scam where scammers are using the promise of a prize or saying that you already won a sweepstakes or lottery to get your money or personal information, but there's no prize to be won. So some of the warning signs to look out for if you think you're dealing with a prize scam is, one, if you have to pay to get your prize. Real prizes are free. So if someone is telling you you have to pay a fee for processing, for taxes, for shipping and handling, chances are you're dealing with a scammer. If they ask you to pay for these fees, especially by way of gift cards, wire transfers, cryptocurrency, don't do it, right? Scammers are trying to use these payments because it's hard to track who the money went to, and it makes it very difficult to get your money back. Another warning sign to look out for is if they say that, paying increases your odds of winning. Real sweepstakes are free and winning is by chance. It's illegal for someone to ask you to pay to increase your odds of winning. Only a scammer will do that. And then third would be if you have to give your financial information. There's no reason to give them, your bank account or your credit card number to claim any prize or sweepstakes. And kind of tying into all that is, these scammers, especially in terms of using urgency where they may give you pressure tactics, they're telling you it's a limited time offer or you have to act now to claim your prize. They don't want you to have time to evaluate what's really happening. So don't be rushed, right? Think through, and especially if they want you to do something to get your prize. Kind of related to all that, the FTC did have a recent enforcement action in this matter, in this area of sweepstakes last year with Publishers Clearinghouse. There we alleged that Publisher Clearinghouse had misleading statements to consumers requiring them to make a purchase to enter a sweepstakes, or that a purchase would increase their chances of winning. We got an $18.5 million settlement order against them June of last year. And then kind of tying into sweepstakes and lottery are online surveys. You may see an ad on social media saying, complete this survey to win a gift card or a new phone. A lot of these surveys are using deceptive and manipulative dark patterns to get you to provide your personal information. And with it, they have a lot of hard to find and inadequate disclosures about how they're using your information. These people that are operating some of these online surveys are then selling your personal information to third parties or telemarketers and subjecting you to unwanted telemarketing calls. And again, the FTC has had a recent enforcement action in this area earlier this year in the case of Response Tree, which I was actually a part of. Response Tree was an operator of several of these, what we would call consent form websites. It was based out in Orange County, and they used these websites with false promises of prizes in filling out these surveys, home insurance quotes, and online coupons to deceive hundreds of thousands of consumers into providing their personal information. And Response Tree then in turn sold that personal information to telemarketers who made millions of illegal telemarketing calls. And the FTC, in connection with the Department of Justice, got an order against Response Tree, banning them from selling, transferring, and disclosing this consumer information in connection with these consent form websites or lead generation services. And kind of lastly, another area of social media scams are online marketplace scams. So online marketplaces are being, these websites where you can sell and buy new and used goods, can be ranging from anything from home appliances to video games. And a lot of these marketplaces show up on social media accounts, in online ads, and just when you search online generally. And unfortunately, this area has been affected by scammers as well. We've come across a lot of problems where, people are not getting the item they paid for. They're not getting the right item, or they're getting one of notably worse quality, or these scammers are just taking your money and running. And so for, what to do and kind of what to look out for when you shop online is to check out the marketplace site. Do your own independent research on the site's name. Look up to see if there's been any complaints or reviews to see what other people have said about their experiences using that site. Check out the individual seller if it's through third-party sellers, right? Check out the seller's ratings, read comments from recent buyers, check several sources and consider whether a review is posted, who wrote the review, and the reviewer's history. And just don't rely on star ratings alone, because some ratings and reviews are fake or maybe misleading. And lastly, for items, right, check out the item. If it's a used or secondhand item, look closely at the photos that the seller posts. You know, are there several photos so you can see the entire item? Are they just stock photos? If it's just stock photos and you're not actually seeing photos of the actual item, you know, you can't check its condition and you can't be sure that the seller really has the item that you're trying to buy. And lastly, just be mindful of using safer payment methods. Don't pay for any items on online marketplaces with gift cards, wire transfers, or with cryptocurrency. If you're using an online marketplace that's legitimate, make sure that you're not making the purchase outside of the online marketplace. If that's what the seller is trying to get you to do, that is a sign of a scam.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Those are great tips. But what can we do about telemarketing fraud and internet scams? Is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah. For telemarketing fraud, that just basically means scams and fraudulent activities through phone calls, and that could be through unwanted telemarketing calls, robocalls, and voicemails. And the three key things to remember about telemarketing fraud is to recognize, report, and register. So first is to learn to recognize the signs of telemarketing fraud. Kind of what's been repeated before, like if the caller is asking you for money first, or if they want to know your personal or financial information. Second, if you have been scammed or you think someone is trying to scam you, report it to the FTC. We do have a website called reportfraud.ftc.gov where you can report fraudulent activity. Third, you can register your phone number on the National Do Not Call registry to limit telemarketing calls. You can register online at donotcall.gov. And as for internet scams, it's similar things, right? You just want to spot the red flags and then report them. Some red flags to keep an eye out for are if they're urgent messages that pressure you to act quickly, links with unusual or unfamiliar URLs or unfamiliar attachments or downloads, too good to be true offers. Just as a general rule of thumb, if something sounds too good to be true, unfortunately, it probably is. And likewise, report any suspicious activity to the FTC.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I like the 3 R's. Anyway, but how can we be safe online and protect our personal information?
So the key to protecting yourself online and your personal information comes down to securing your devices, protecting your accounts, and protecting your home network. In terms of securing your devices, you just want to make sure you're keeping your security software, your internet browser, and your operating system up to date. For information on how to update these, you can normally go to your developers' websites, and they'll have a way for you to either update automatically or to receive email updates. In terms of protecting your accounts, as Sally mentioned before, making sure you're using and creating strong passwords. Usually that would mean, long characters, right? Making a password longer is generally the easiest way to increase its strength. And consider using a passphrase of random words so that your password is more memorable, but avoid using common words or phrases. So for example, for your password, probably don't use the word password. And then another way to kind of strengthen your accounts is to use multi-factor authentication, or MFAs. This is just an extra security that requires 2 or more credentials to log into your account. These additional credentials can fall into kind of 2 categories: something that you have, like a passcode that gets sent to your cell phone, or via an authentication app or security key, or something that you are, like a scan of your fingerprint. MFAs make it harder for scammers to log into your account if they do get your username and password. And then in terms of protecting your home network, it's kind of like your Wi-Fi network, right? You could also protect your connected devices by replacing the default Wi-Fi network password and router admin password with a strong password. And also you can encrypt your network to prevent unauthorized access. When you encrypt your Wi-Fi router, it scrambles the data sent over your network and makes it harder for others to see what you're doing or accessing with your personal information. And just generally, in terms of your social media or online presence, just be mindful of what you post and what you share online, limit who can see your posts and information on social media. All social media platforms collect information from you, from your activities, but they do have privacy settings to kind of restrict or set some restrictions. Just anecdotally, we came across an instance of, a company that had a Facebook post. A consumer was unhappy with the company's services and decided to comment on the post, leaving her complaint, but on top of that, leaving her account information and phone number. And unfortunately, that was available for everyone to see. So she exposed her very personal information for the public. And that was especially bad because with her Facebook account, she had her full name there. So everyone could see her full name, her phone number, and her account information. So it's just, very important to just be mindful of what you're posting or sharing out online.
Wow. So how can we be safe online and protect our personal information?
Yeah, so it's kind of that in the same way of what we mentioned before in terms of securing your accounts, securing your devices, and protecting your home network. Yeah.
Okay. So what can I do if I've been scammed?
Some key tips to keep in mind if you have been scammed is to stop contact with the scammer. Keep copies of your communications, whether it's through social media direct messages, emails, or texts. Report the fraud to the social media network or the website. All social media websites do have some form of customer service or customer report function to report the fraudulent activity. Report the matter to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov and report the matter to your local consumer protection agency. Some other tips to keep in mind is if you paid a scammer, contact your bank or your card issuer and tell them it was an unauthorized transaction and report the fraudulent activity. If you gave a scammer your personal information or account information, go to identitytheft.gov, which is a federal government website, to see what steps to take, including how to monitor your credit. And also create a new strong password, and if you use that same password anywhere else, change it there too. And if you believe that you clicked on a malicious link or downloaded some malware, make sure to update your computer security software, run a scan, and delete anything it identifies as a problem. Contact your service provider, and then also make sure to check your credit card, bank, and other financial accounts for unauthorized charges or changes.
Thank you so much. And how can I stay connected with the latest news and developments with the FTC?
So the FTC does have some resources to help. One is consumer.ftc.gov. This is the FTC's main website for consumers, where we help educate and inform people about detecting, avoiding, and reporting fraud and scams. We have over 200 articles available in the areas of money, credit, scams, and the like. The next is, as I mentioned before, identitytheft.gov. This is the federal government's website to report identity theft and where people can get a recovery plan to help them deal with the problems that identity theft may cause. Last is youtube.com/FTC videos. Here you can find various videos on different scams, what to look out for, and what to do. And last, you could also receive alerts at consumer.ftc.gov/consumer-alerts. And it'll give you, up-to-date alerts on the current scam trends.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for those answers and all the advice. And now let's take some questions from our audience. And audience, keep posting your questions in the chat so we can answer them during the Q&A session. Strut, do we have questions in the chat?
Hi, Sharita. Thank you very
hi.
much. Just give me a second to come off mute. Can you hear me? All
Yeah,
right.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Let's look in chat. Okay. So I'm going to invite Julie Stokes. She has a question about what are the best ways to prevent your social media account from being hacked or cloned. Julie, would you like to come on and ask a question?
Sure. Yes, I did have that question. I have a number of friends who have posted that their social media accounts have been hacked for some reason, and I was wondering if you had some suggestions on how to prevent that.
Sure, I can answer that question. So there may not be a foolproof way to secure accounts from hackers, your social media accounts, but there's definitely things that you can do to protect your accounts. And as Jeffrey and I both mentioned, you want to upgrade to a strong, unique password for each account and enable two-factor authentication, whether that be a phone number or a passcode that's sent to your cell phone or via email. And then you want to review your account permissions and restrict access to external apps. So when you use your social media account to log in to another site or app, you often end up sharing a lot of information between the two accounts. So all of the major social sites have a page where you can see which external apps have access, and you want to adjust your settings. You also want to check your social channels for site-specific recommendations. So major social media sites have their own recommendations on how to keep your profiles more secure. So you want to follow that information as well.
Thank you, Sally. Before I go to our next question, Jeffrey, did you want to add anything to that?
I think Sally answered everything perfectly and completely. I have nothing to add.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I'm going to invite Susan Wheeler. She has a question about home networks and encryption. Susan, please come on and ask your question.
Thank you. Yes. So I have a home Wi-Fi that's provided by a large telecommunications company. And I maybe was under the misimpression that it is a secure network. So if I send anything over it, that it's already secure. I don't have to encrypt it, but it sounded like from Jeffrey that maybe I need to, because I have a VPN for traveling. I turn it off when I'm at home. So anyway, so do I need to do something to make sure my home network is more secure?
These advice and tips are just ways to kind of strengthen. Obviously, if you encrypt your home Wi-Fi, that would be better than if you did not. But if you do have questions kind of about the strength or security of your home Wi-Fi, I do recommend reaching out to your internet service provider. They would definitely have more details and specifics in terms of, your security and kind of any tips to help improve that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Sally, before I go to Catherine Martinez, any thing to add to that?
I think Jeffrey mentioned earlier in part of his presentation where he said to change the user ID and password for the home Wi-Fi as well. And that would be another extra protection as well.
Absolutely. Good suggestions there. Thank you both. Let me invite Catherine Martinez on. Catherine, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Please go ahead, ask your question.
I forgot what it was.
Okay. You said some of this sounds complicated. Where can I learn to do some of this in terms of protecting accounts and devices? Does that remind you of
Yes,
what you wanted to ask?
yes. Yeah, he was saying, or they were saying about going, doing this or doing that, but it didn't give any direction as to where I can, go to protect myself or my accounts online.
So I can start off with that. Thank you, Catherine, for your question. And, it's very important for all of our attendees to learn more, right, about protecting themselves. And I know Jeffrey and I shared a lot of information with you today. This webinar is being recorded, so you will get a copy of the recording link later on today, along with resource pages, contact information. But for the most part, I know this can be really confusing. We just want to make sure the basic things that you can do is to have a unique user ID as well as password for each account. And then look for anything suspicious. right? Whether it's coming from your bank, a text message, you know, we all get the text message that says you have a USPS package coming and we need your address or we can't send it to you. Or, you know, your bank credit card, you know, bank notifies you of a fraudulent charge on your account, then call here, click here. The best thing you can do for yourself is to verify. If something doesn't sound right, verify that there really is an issue by going to the source itself, by calling the bank directly, any financial institution directly with the real number. If you get a voice message, they're calling from the IRS and they're going to arrest you if you don't make payment, don't call the numbers that's left on your answering machine. Go to the source, look up the real number. If you need help, ask for help. And that is talking with your family, friends. And, you know, if you think something is a scam, Google it. And you can Google actually, you know, anything. And basically it'll give you a description that says, yep, everyone's reporting that, you know, that what you're describing is a scam. And again, if anybody asks you to send money, someone you've never met in person, but over your social media, they're asking for money and they're asking for you to send it with a gift card, wire transfer, go to the new crypto ATM machines. Those are all red flags.
Okay. One incident that I did have is my computer was frozen and it said, call this number for support. And when I told my son, who has a pretty good knowledge of computers, he told me, do not call that number. He says, turn off your computer. But then he told me a certain, you know, control this or that, and it was able to clear it up. But yeah, I don't know how they accessed my computer, and you know,
Okay,
I was
Catherine.
frozen.
Yes, so it was probably most likely a pop-up ad that came up that says you have a virus, call this number, it's loud, you can't clear that pop-up ad, so you think your computer's frozen, you're not sure what to do, and you are tempted to call that number.
Yes.
Stop. That is a tech support scam where people here in Southern California have lost hundreds of $1,000s to tech support scams. If that pop-up ad comes up, you can't clear it, delete it, you're scared, you don't know what to do, unplug your computer. Just pull the plug. It's happened to my dad. Unplug it, let it sit for 10 minutes. The problem should be gone. If you think there really is an issue with your computer, then you want to go to an IT specialist, and that could be Best Buy's Geek Squad. Ask your family members for help and say, I'm having problems with my account. One thing you never want to do is call that number and then also give somebody virtual access, remote access to your computer.
Okay.
That's the last thing you want to do. And Jeffrey mentioned, I know you said updating our software, updating our operating systems, and keeping our antivirus apps up to date, right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Let's take the next question again from, I believe it's Julia Stokes. She's got a question about Facebook Marketplace, how safe it is to sell things on Facebook Marketplace. Julia, care to ask your question?
Yes, I was wondering about your opinion on whether Facebook Marketplace is a safe thing to use. I had someone try and buy something from me by asking me to use Zelle and my bank account, and they didn't want to use any other form of payment, and I became suspicious, so I stopped the transaction. But I'm curious if there's just generally if that's an unsafe place to buy and sell new and used items. I know you talked a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm not going to express an opinion necessarily in terms of Facebook Marketplace in general. I just think the thing to keep in mind is, you know, when you're dealing with strangers, whether you're buying or selling items over the internet, just be cautious, right? You know, what you mentioned in terms of what thought were like red flags, you know, that's good to keep in mind. Do try to take steps to kind of filter through what you think may be problematic, either buyers or sellers. Something that I didn't mention, but earlier is that, you know, if you're trying to do a purchase or a sale of an item where you're doing it online, but you're actually meeting up in person, one way to kind of make that safer is that a lot of law enforcement, in terms of police stations or sheriff's departments, they have designated what they call safe trade or safe, I believe, transfer spots, where, you know, it provides a more neutral, safe environment to kind of go through this transaction to hopefully make things safer. And it's also one of those things too, where if, you know, you're suggesting to do this at a police station and the other side is saying, you know, very cautious, doesn't want to do it, that could be another red flag that, hey, maybe this may not be quite as legitimate.
Thank you.
But
Just
we may have time for just a quick question.
yes, I'm going to call on C. Trot. I hope I said that correctly. He has a question about public data breaches, that national public data breaches. C. Trot, you on? All right. Maybe not. He wanted us to comment about the public data breaches. Another question, Eric J., if you're on, you've got a question about the do not call list. Eric, are you on with us? Okay, I guess not. Do either of you?
I'm here.
All right, go ahead and ask your question, please.
I had to unmute. I've used that do not call over the years, many years and stuff. Especially my wife and I both have at least our cell phones on there. But I'm not too sure how reliable that is anymore from the government standpoint, because I think marketers still abuse or ignore the federal laws on the do not call, and they still do it anyway. I mean, has that been enhanced or updated or anything like that to make it harder for these telemarketers to abuse that do not call list?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to hear that, you know, you're getting these unwanted telemarketing calls. I do want to stress the importance of, you know, if you register for the National Do Not Call Registry, if you are trying to limit unwanted telemarketing calls, I will say, you know, the agency has had enforcement action against businesses that have violated the telemarketing sales rule, one of which is making, you know, calls to numbers on the do not call registry without proper consent or permission. So we have had enforcement action in that matter. Those violations do carry civil penalties, and quite significant civil penalties as well.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've run out of time over here. It's been a very helpful discussion, full of information. And unfortunately, we are out of time. And I'd like to thank my special guests, Sally Westlake with the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, and Jeffrey Tang, attorney with the Federal Trade Commission, for sharing their time, insights, and advice today. I'd also like to thank AARP staff, Strat and Marissa, for their help with tech, for helping us manage the questions in the chat. And of course, you, our audience, thank you all for joining us today and sharing your comments and asking your questions. I hope you found our conversation helpful. And as this is our last Scam Chat Wednesday for this year, conversation of this year, I want to thank and recognize all of the guests that we had on our program. From the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, the FBI, the FTC, and the United States Attorney's Office. A big thank you to everyone. If you have questions about fraud, please contact our AARP Fraud Watch Network at 877-908-3360. You can also visit us online at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. You can see those numbers in the slide. And again, I'm Sarita Cardozo, your AARP volunteer host. Thank you for joining us today, and goodbye. Have a good rest of the day.